I'll tell you what, I think that's about as good as we're going to get. Sorry for the delay, folks. Complicated business out here. Welcome to the Iron Mountain Hour. All kinds of screwy things going on with the computer system now. And of course, it's when I have something real important to tell y'all. I feel like I'm pretty lopsided here, but we're just going to have to roll with it because that's the way it is. Yeah, so for whatever reason, the setup that I've used with my computer decided not to work tonight. So I'm glad to have you with us here. I'm going to try to split this around so I can get you in the chat, and we'll get everything set. And of course, it would be the night. I had a lot of new people tuning in, so let's go, make of that what you will. Well, we got some fun stuff we're going to talk about, and some important stuff too. Let me turn you up here so I can see the chat, and that way we'll be able to. Yeah, we're just going to. For whatever reason, my studio setup has decided that it does not want to allow me to put audio out there, so I'm just having to go stream mobily. So I hope you can join me that way. We did have a plan to have a Skype conversation, to have you all call in, to have Tim joining us, and it's not working out. So this is the way we're going to have to do it if we're going to have a show tonight. I did have a few things I wanted to get into before we have our Sunday show. And I think we're going to have Moose Roberts live in studio this Sunday. So we'll just see how that goes. But if not, I've got a special for you on Lyme disease and tick-borne illness that is, as you will see when we get into it, it will become more and more relevant to goings on in our world today. So I'm glad to have you join us with us. If you are not subscribed to the channel already, please do so. Like the video. Go to our Rumble channel. Search the Iron Mountain Hour. I had it in the description in the video that I had set up to run earlier, but that's not working out. So you'll have to actually go to Rumble and search this out. Help us up get to 100 subscribers there. That way we can live stream on Rumble, and YouTube is not our only choice for live streaming. We want to have a platform where we can freely speak our mind, where we don't have to worry about censorship like you do on YouTube in a lot of cases. We've had our YouTube videos censored on multiple occasions, and we don't want to have that happen again. So, I mean, it's bound to happen, but at least when we have the Iron Mountain Hour live on Rumble, you can tune in there if you can't see us on YouTube. So we'd love to have you subscribe and join us in the chat. Jump in that live chat. Give us a hello. Say what's up. Let us know where you're from, especially if you are from the Appalachian area and the Tri-Cities. We'd love to have your input on these stories. Let me get into the news. And it's going to be an abbreviated show, I guess, tonight because we started so slowly. But it really sucks because I had a lot of good stuff I want to talk to you about and get your thoughts on. I've got like 10 links that I have in the show program here. We're not going to have time to go over them all, unfortunately. But we can still probably get into some interesting stuff. So I do want to look into, before we get real into the main topic of the night, we had some local news. We had, and now I can't even show you his picture like I planned on it because we're not running through the PC. I'm hoping you can hear me at least on the, I'm just doing mobile audio on my phone here. Instead of running through my microphone and all the studio setup, it's not working out that way. But we did have a story up in Wise County, Virginia. A school teacher and a coach was arrested over what they say was misconduct allegations. And they show the guy's mug, which I was going to show to you. But his name is Timothy Lee Meador, 28, of Wise, Virginia, under indictment on 3 felony charges, one of child solicitation and 2 counts of indecent liberty. So you got these teachers, and we feel like we're, kind of immune to this stuff in this area, but it goes on out there a lot. I mean, I think you probably know, if you went to high school around here, you probably knew some teacher that was doing something with a senior in the school, or they hooked up right after, or something like that. A lot of that stuff goes on, and a lot of them get arrested, but some of them don't. But this guy up in Big Stone Gap, Timothy Lee Meador, he did get arrested and under indictment. Speaking of indictment, did y'all see that they indicted Trump? So they're actually asking him and a lot of his lawyers to report to the county jail there in Fulton County, Georgia. Now, this is not a political show, but as we get into the election season, I think they had the first Republican debate today. We are going to get into some politics. It's going to have to happen because it's going to be one of the trending, one of the big topics that is going on in the country and in our neighborhood. So we're going to have to get into that some. But they did arrest or indict Trump and several of his lawyers, and have told them to report to the county jail in Fulton County. And this was over One of the things that they used for evidence is they said that Trump posted a live stream of an OANN news broadcast that said that Trump was, or that there was maybe some shenanigans going on with the election or whatever. But they used this as evidence that Trump was inciting this violence. So the thing on January 6th. So anyway, they're trying to use basically anything they can to get him. They're throwing everything they can at him. They're bound to try to arrest him. They've indicted him in multiple jurisdictions. So as Tim and I have talked, and I'm sorry I can't have Tim in on this conversation tonight, but he has, this could be a catalyst for something a lot bigger. So we'll keep our eye on that going forward. We do have some local stories. That's mostly what I want to get into tonight. But before we get into that, want to talk about, there's been a lot of talk about these Hawaii fires, right? So, you had these huge fires out on Maui, and there's been a lot of talk over the internet about how Maui is going to be it was going to be the smart island, right? They had this big plan for it, that it was going to be they want to do the Tri-Cities, they want to make it the smart cities. Well, they want to make Maui an entire smart island, and a lot of times with these things, you have to have some sort of a reset, some sort of a maybe even a great reset to get people ready for this. And you get into things like the Fourth Industrial Revolution, where we're doing away with the human component of a lot of these technical systems. And this was a big part of some of the plans for Maui. So a lot of people have the idea that this was really, this fire was basically a raising to get ready for this reset. And so as it's been a few days after, people are trying to recover, people are trying to rebuild, people are trying to move, see what they can recover of their homes and move back in here. And you've got land grabbers coming in all over Hawaii, basically real estate investors, big wigs, bankers, scum of the earth, basically trying to come in there and buy these people's property up while they can buy it super cheap after it's been burned to the ground. These people they've lost everything. Maybe they have insurance, but everybody on the island has lost everything, or in the areas where this fire was. So it's not like they're going to get an immediate payout. So who do you have? You have land grabbers, speculators, investors, bankers moving in and offering people below market value for what their home is worth. And they've actually had the governor, Josh Green, surprisingly enough, has jumped in and said, "Hey, we're going to protect Maui landowners because a lot of these people feel like they don't have any choice. They're going to have to sell their homes or sell their property because the insurance is not paying out right away. They don't have enough saved cash to live on." So Josh Green, the Hawaii governor, he vowed to protect local landowners being victimized by opportunistic buyers when Maui rebuilds. And there was over 100 people died in it, and a lot of people lost their properties. So just been about a week ago. So there's there's hotels and condos that the local people can't afford to live in that are available, but there's a lot of the single family homes are gone and stuff, and people are staying in shelters. And I thought it was pretty interesting with all the talk of DEWs that we've heard, that Biden's one statement on the issue was to say that we are laser focused. We're laser focused, man. On Hawaii. We're laser focused on Hawaii, man. Well, that's pretty interesting that he would use that choice of words. And I'm not one to say, I really don't know. I don't have any idea what caused these fires, and a lot of times there are fires. It happens. Poor forest management, as has been often pointed out, causes these things to rage on, and who knows what really caused it. But there are a lot of weird things in a lot of these photos where you'll see cars melted into a puddle of molten steel and chrome, and meanwhile there's a bush like 2 feet away that's not even charred or black. So how does this happen? That's a very, very good question. There's also been videos of these Chinese lasers that are supposedly monitoring for pollution in the area. And but to say that the two were related would be, well, that would be just a conspiracy theory. No, I'm not saying they are. But I don't understand why it's outside of the realm of possibility to bring that idea up. I mean, we've been doing laser surgeries, since the 70s and 80s, where you cut skin with where a doctor cuts skin with a hot laser, and does really precise incisions. We've got anti-drone and anti-missile weapons where battleships will shoot out a laser that will it'll explode a missile or drone in midair, and we've had these for a long time. Reagan, the Strategic Defense Initiative, the Star Wars, as it was also called, was the idea that we were going to have a big ray gun in space that could shoot down Russian missiles. So the idea that it's far fetched to have some sort of directed energy weapon is pretty naive to me, because they have that stuff out there. All the public tech that we see is decades behind what's actually available to the military industrial complex, and it gets traded around the world. They keep it secret. You see some of it's show through every now and then, but a lot of people don't know we've had touch screens since the 80s. We've had holograms since the 80s, as they've not been really available for public consumption, but the intelligence agencies and the militaries were using those way back then. They're, a lot of the stuff we get is 20 to 30 years out, maybe even 50 years. Look at the SR-71 Blackbird. And, I mean, that sucker was hidden, and they said up until it was hidden until they released it, and then even 30, 40 years after it was developed, and I think they still say it's the fastest plane that they have. And you're telling me a 50-year-old plane is the fastest thing in the United States fleet? I don't believe it. So there's a lot of this stuff we're not we're just not pertinent to this information, or we're not able to receive this stuff until well after. So anyway, the idea that it's an absurd conspiracy theory that there could be some sort of DEW is pretty insulting to me, considering all the high technology that we have seen evidence of. Now, would somebody want to use it on the Hawaiian people? That's a whole other question together. Why would they do that? Well, there's been a lot of speculation on that too. And we go to Oprah. Oprah, a lot of people are pointing to Oprah. She's bought up all this land in Hawaii and Maui. Keeps buying it and buying it and buying it. She's connected to the John of God cult. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on there. I couldn't speak to why she might want to buy that, buy all that land in Hawaii, but it is awfully convenient for her. Now Tim has mentioned before, and this is not Tim's idea, but it's out there, and Tim has brought it up in the program before, that there was a lot of similar speculation about Dolly Parton with the Gatlinburg fire of 2016. Now, if y'all don't remember, in 2016, I'm sure you do, it's just 7 years ago, the summer of 2016, there was a huge forest fire in Gatlinburg. I think over 100 people died. And what really caused it, according to the Smokies.com, it killed 14 people. I'm sorry, injured 190 people, and damaged 2,400 buildings. One of the largest natural disasters in the history of Tennessee, and natural disaster, they say. But it burned down a lot of these chalets up on the top of the mountain. It just rushed up there and got out of control. And right now, there are actually families suing the federal government for what happened in Gatlinburg. This is pretty recent. The judge actually, there was a dismissal initially because these guys were suing the federal government, saying that the federal government mismanaged the fire, and they also mismanaged the forest. And if you live in our area, a lot of the forest around us is national forest. You can't buy it. You can't really do anything to it. Only the National Forest only the National Forest Service can do much on it. And so a lot of these people who lost their lives, lost their properties, lost their livelihood, they claim it's a result of the federal government's failure to act quickly during the Gatlinburg fire. Now listen, I'm all if the government really did fail on this, and the federal government did, and it was their job to put this fire out, then I'm all for you folks suing them, and I'm all for you being recovering what you've lost in some way or another. Obviously, you can't recover the lives, but the property you can be compensated monetarily for it in some way or another, and there's other ways you can be made whole on this. But is it really the federal government's problem? I don't know. It just kind of seems like a lot of times here in Tennessee, we don't want the federal government involved in what we're doing here, but then if they don't act, then we'll sue them. I don't know. Maybe there's more to the story that I don't know, but the lawsuit is back on because there was a dismissal of the lawsuit, and a federal judge or a panel did overturn a lower court's decision to dismiss the claims against the National Park Service. Um, so let's see why they dismissed it. And I'd like to show you this, but it's not. I'm not able to put it on the screen. But they were. This was back in 2022. They dismissed the lawsuit, and and here's the thing: they allowed the lawsuits to continue from insurance companies, but not from the individuals, right? So the lawyers for the individuals did, get that claim. And you know what? If you're going to allow the insurance companies, you should allow the individuals. So they did. They reversed that. The federal panel did, and they're going. And it's one of these things where it's like, oh well, you didn't file the right paper. This actually has to start as an administrative complaint, so you can't sue. So it's whatever. I'm glad they're letting them. Glad they're letting them at least make their case in court, not say, well, you didn't do this exactly the right way, so therefore you're not entitled to any damages you might otherwise receive. So it's one of those things people hate about lawyers. There's all the tropes about that the lowest circle in hell is for the lawyers, and you can see why when you see things like this. But they did overturn that dismissal and allow the people to sue them. But it's 7 years later. You gotta wait 7 years to be made whole after say the government did screw up and it is their fault. You gotta wait 7 years to even be before you can even ask to be made whole. It's kind of crazy. But let's look at the statement from Josh Green, the governor. He says he's going to protect local landowners from being victimized by opportunistic buyers when Maui rebuilds from deadly wildfires that incinerated a historic land community and killed more than 100 people. Now, he says, my intention is from start to finish to make sure that no one is victimized from a land grab. People are now traumatized. Please do not approach them with an offer to buy their land. Do not approach their families saying they'll be much better off if they make a deal, because we're not going to allow it. Well, that's a pretty shitty thing to do. It's pretty slimy, right? Well, you guys are, we lost everything. Your property was worth, $750,000, but now it's all burned down. You don't want to have to wait on the insurance. You need the money now. We'll give you $100,000 for your property as it stands. People all over the island have been getting these phone calls, getting these visits, and it's pretty dirty stuff. So, I'd heard, what's up, Dalton? Glad to have you here. Hey, from the Bible Belt TN, glad to have you too. I'm late too. It's all right. We had technical difficulties. We're not able to do the show that I had planned. My computer will not recognize any of the microphones that I had hooked up to it. So we're actually streaming from the mobile platform. Sound quality is probably not as good. The video quality is probably not as good, but we're here. We're live. We're coming to you from Carter County here in the Iron Mountain. And we are -10, so I wasn't able to hook up the Bill Gates space magic of Skype to reach across the holler to Tim there. But if you're in the chat, I do want to tell you we're going to be on a little bit longer. If you have a holler story, I was listening to Appalachian I can't remember the name of it, but it was a local group of folks from out of West Virginia, and they travel around. They've been all over Johnson City and Appalachian. I can't think of the name of it. Anyway, I was watching them on Quite Frankly show, and they were talking about hollers. And I thought it'd be fun to do a show. Let's talk about your holler stories. What hollers have you run up into, and what's the craziest thing you've seen in a holler? I'll tell you what, there's a lot of things up there. Just go up Stony Creek, and you've got dozens and dozens of hollers. And for those who may not be in our area, don't know what a holler is, we're talking in other parts of the country they might call it a hollow, but it's a spot between. You got the mountains coming down, and you got the hills coming off of the mountains, and in between those hills you usually have a little valley, maybe a creek. Them bugs are allowed to. Oh, I've got the window open. You can hear them. I'll close the window. My neighbors probably heard me cussing my Skype setup here and my audio setup. Didn't remember to have the window open, so sorry about the crickets there, folks. But you go into a holler, you got the two little hills coming off off the mountain, and then there's usually a creek running through it, and you got a road running up through there where everybody lives. You might have a whole bunch of family members. You might have you know unrelated people. Most of the time, they're named after the family that lives up there. You got dozens of them going up Stony Creek. You got dozens and dozens going around the lake. Hollers abound in our area. So, what's your holler story? Leave it to me in the chat. We were going to have a Skype, but that's not going to work out tonight. So, yeah, definitely hit us up with those holler chats, and I will read them at the end of the show, and we'll see what's your craziest holler story or your best holler story, whatever kind of holler story you want to tell. I'd love to hear it. So I want to go. I was going to go over this with you, but this is from Mo Cheese Please on Twitter, or X as it is now. He says, "How to land grab." This is regarding the Hawaii fires. He says, "Create a law 1 month prior to a natural disaster that states developers can buy Hawaiian land legally at a discounted price if a national disaster occurs. A natural disaster occurs. And two, hire a corrupt police chief that previously failed as a police captain that oversaw the Las Vegas shooting in 2017 and has experience in covering up crimes where large amounts of people are killed." Well, that he does. Number three, make a plan to catch citizens off guard to allow for the most destruction and loss of human life. Shut off all the waters. Blockade homeowners in at checkpoints set by said police chief so they can't escape. Only evacuate tourists, not locals. Prevent warning sirens from alerting residents after telling them the fire was 100% contained. Arrest anyone trying to help or video the aftermath. Now, all these things happened in the Maui fire, right? Number five, start a fire after everything has been set up and it's dry as a bones. Now, we can't tell, what really started the fire. The natural conditions were right for this thing to spread. But, who knows if it had a helping hand or not? Anybody can say. I did have some videos I was going to show you, but it was basically to say that, there was a law changed recently, and it was a guy going through everything saying that before you could not buy land like this, and then they changed it. And then they're asking the Maui police chief, why was the water shut off? Why were they told the bushfire was contained? Why was the street blocked? Why were the police blocking everything off? Why were there no warning sirens? Why did you not evacuate the locals? And no comment. And so no help from there. And Mo Cheese Please goes on to show the people's claiming that cars with people inside were blockaded and prevented moving by the police while the fire spread. So Tim has mentioned, and he has not asserted this to be the case, but he has said that the comment that the idea is out there, the narrative is out there in the internet, that a similar thing was done in the Gatlinburg fires in 2016. And I did want to show you, if you remember the Gatlinburg fires, it's kind of strange. Not just the fires themselves. I'll get into why I find it strange here in a minute. But there was a federal lawsuit. This is news today. I told you about the people being able to sue the federal government of the Gatlinburg fire. Well, we got to the Smokies.com. What actually caused they also called it the Chimney Tops fire. And people were trying to prove that some boys started the fire and that the wind, basically knocked it out of control. But in the autumn of 2016, East Tennessee had been exceptionally dry. There was kind of a drought. Lots of trees lots of fires at the time. The National Park Service was monitoring the Chimney Tops fire, and it was being treated as a normal fire. But when the wind hit it, it went out of control, and that's why they're suing them, saying that they were monitoring it and it didn't take care of it. Well, then you start getting gusts of 87 miles per hour, and it was basically like a blast furnace run across the mountains there in Gatlinburg. So there was lots of fuel for the fires once they started going. Everything was dry, but what went wrong? Well, they found that the radio communications overloaded the system. Nobody could hear what they were actually supposed to do. The departments had trouble communicating with one another, And then you had the emergency stuff. They were trying to notify people of the fire. All that failed in a lot of ways, and a lot of people didn't know the fire was happening until it was right on top of them. A lot of the people that died actually, you know, didn't try to escape until they saw their neighbors' houses on fire. So it's a really awful thing. Um, but there were people making accusations that Dolly Parton, was somehow involved or something or another in trying to buy up land. Well, I wanted to show you what Dolly Parton. I hate to be the guy to debunk the conspiracy theory, but Dolly Parton actually, and not a far cry from trying to buy up people's land, she did a My People fund that actually paid people who lost their homes $1,000 a month, and then ended up giving them a $5,000 for 6 months, and then gave them a $5,000 payment at the end of it. So she did actually help a lot of these people who were losing everything in the fire. Um, so sorry, Tim, if the that disrupts the war maiden theory. I don't know, but she was definitely helping out folks there and helping them to keep their property rather than buying it up as others have accused her of. And um, you know, I'm not saying I don't know what Oprah's doing out there, but she has been buying up a lot of property. But you know what's curious about the 2016 Gatlinburg fires is there was a whole lot of suspicious deaths, and I'll just give you one of them that were happening in Gatlinburg at the time. We had several helicopter crashes. There were like tourist helicopter crashes. You had people dying in a hot tub. You had people randomly die in a hot tub. Hmm. Well, what is significant about people dying in a hot tub? Well, before we get into that, I want to show you this story. There was a show, I think it was on TLC in 2017, 2018. I remember it was right after Trump got elected because he was in the middle of the all the Russia conspiracy stuff that was going on. They were accusing him of being a Russian spy, and a lot of the networks were in on this as far as feeding into the propaganda. And there was a lot of Russian fear being spread. Russian. We've got to watch out for those Russians. There's a Russian under every rock. You got to watch out for those. Donald Trump is working for the Russians. The Russians are stealing our state secrets, and Donald Trump is helping them. Well, I got a story here. This is from Yahoo. Yeah, who goes to Yahoo? But this is from Yahoo News from Stephen Proctor. Former Russian intelligence officer says America is in big trouble. The plot against America. Former FBI special agent Dennis Franks enlisted the help of two former Russian intelligence officers while investigating a possible Russian infiltration of Oak Ridge National Laboratory. It says they painted a grim picture against Russian of U.S. counterintelligence against Russian espionage, and they believe over 1,000 Russian spies are now operating in the U.S. I would say it's probably more than that, but it says there are more spies in the U.S. now than during the Cold War, and they had an explanation for that. So they said thanks to the fall of the Soviet Union, no one is paying attention to the accent. No one's going to ask if you're Russian. No one's freaking out. So it's way easier for people to infiltrate if they are Russians. Well, there's a lot of Russians around Oak Ridge. And there's a lot of Russians in Gatlinburg, and there was a show on the Learning Channel in 2017 that detailed a lot of this, and I think it was this same guy that was telling him about it, right? Well, 2016, in the midst of there was the wildfire, there was the hot tub deaths, there was a helicopter death. Well, what am I talking about the hot tub deaths? Let's see here. What is significant about these hot tub deaths? Well, we got here we go. The Knox County, this is WATE.com. The Knox County Medical Examiner finds cause of Gatlinburg hot tub's deaths is drowning. Well, that just sounds like some people got drunk in a hot tub, right? But let's read. The final autopsy results from Knox County Medical Examiner revealed alcohol and health issues were contributing factors for two people who were found dead in a hot tub at Gatlinburg Falls Resort in April. Now, this is 2016 also. The final cause for death for Myra Smith Findale and John Levin was drowning, according to the Knox County Medical Examiner. The medical examiner found alcohol as well as heart problems contributed to their death. While Findale was an employee at Hewlett Packard, Levin was a professor at University of Tennessee. What was he a professor of at Tennessee, University of Tennessee? Well, let's look here. In memoriam, we got John This is from news from utknoxville.com. This is their in memoriam, and I was going to show you this on the screen, but I'm unable to do so. He was a gifted teacher and director of the undergraduate physics program, passed away last weekend. He was 63. And he was a professor in the Department of Physics and Astronomy, joined UT in 1993. And he did experimental atomic physics. Oh, really? Okay. Well, let's see what else he did. He was an research associate at Oak Ridge National Laboratory, staff physicist at the National Institutes of Standard and Technology. He was the he did an outreach project for um, Fentress County schools. Maybe he's bringing in the chicken cult. Y'all know about the chicken cult that Moose told us about in Fentress County? Maybe that's a story for another day. But he they so this guy worked at Oak Ridge. He worked in the physics department at UT, and then suddenly in this rash of deaths in 2016, including helicopter crashes, and there was another professor, and this professor died, and then you've got the big fire, and then you've got stories coming out about Russian spies all over Oak Ridge. And who knows what happened? Was it, was this all just a coincidence that all this stuff run together? Or do I just have my tinfoil hat on? Maybe. I mean, it's possible. But it's just something seemed strange about all the things when they were happening at the time, especially with all um, the goings on in national politics with regard to the Russians and espionage. And I mean, the national news read like a spy thriller. I pretty much quit reading fiction in 2017, 2018 because the national news was, and I like fiction with intrigue, and I like spy stuff, but not only spy stuff, but that's some of the stuff that I like. But anyway, the real life news was so full of that stuff, I kind of quit reading it. As you got all these, all the fake news people, the fake news, you can see that it's fake, right? But it's like, what exactly? Because they can't exactly outright lie. They have to lie carefully. And when you see this news come out and you say, okay, what are they not telling us, and what are they, exaggerating that shouldn't be exaggerated, and what are they minimizing that shouldn't be minimized? And it's always a question you have to ask when you see these news stories. So, at any rate, I saw all these stories coming together in 2016, 2017, 2018, and they kind of ticked my radar. But just seeing the Maui fires kind of brings them all back up. You also had, if you look, if I mean, there were several suspicious deaths like right in a row. You had groups of people with I forget what company it was, but there was and I meant to pull this up tonight, and I didn't have time to get it together because having trouble with the show. I didn't get to get everything ready. But there was another group, a research group that died down there. You had a helicopter crash. You had a tour. You had two helicopter crashes at the same time. One group of tourists died, and the other one was on some sort of convention, some sort of technological convention, and then they had a group of them die in a helicopter crash. So all this weird stuff, and then I saw the story on the Learning Channel about the Russian spies in Oak Ridge, and I got thinking, well, you're pretty close to Oak Ridge down there in Gatlinburg, so if there was a some sort of network within it, you'd have to have support, somewhat locally. So maybe the two are related, maybe not, but unfortunately, it's running low on time. It's almost 11 o'clock. I was only able to get to you a half hour tonight. We had an hour show planned, but it's just no time to do it tonight. So I'd love to have it if you will join us on Sunday at 10 p.m. We'll have everything in the studio. We'll have our audio kicking right. We'll make sure everything's good to go. And we are either going to talk this week, we're going to talk with Moose Trainwreck Roberts about whatever the hell Moose wants to talk about, because when you have Moose in the studio, I mean, it's like trying to fight a locomotive. You try to wrangle that conversation one way or another. You're going to be, hey, what's up, Bible Belt? She says, think you got to get your autograph. I know who you are. Thank you. Yeah, I had my. I was going to tell you, I was out there working on my deck. It was like me and my wife were out there. It was like freaking. I felt like Ricky and Lucy Ricardo out there trying to get the deck done. But it is square and it is level. So we had our dog. When we rebuilt the deck, we put the steps to another place and he went out to where the steps used to be and just dove off like my wife was eating a bowl of beans. And I guess he thought she was gonna throw it out, and so he took off running to see if she was gonna throw it out in the yard, and just slipped, and there was nothing there. So he goes sailing over the deck and lands on a pile of concrete, hurt his leg, and got a sprain, but he's doing all right now. He's back home, and we've got the railing up around the deck, so there's hopefully no more dogs going airborne. We did have Orville the Jack Russell. He mighty dogged his ass off there, but he's 15 pounds. He can handle it a lot better than a 50-pound border collie. Yeah, we got them there steps fixed there, Bible Belt, Tennessee. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But yeah, but I'm so glad to have y'all joining us tonight. We're definitely going to have a better show on Sunday. I hate when technical difficulties happen. It happens sometimes. There's gremlins in these systems, or you could say they're out to get you. I don't know. It is pretty weird that everything worked fine the last time I did a studio show, and then I didn't touch the setup, but now nothing works. So go figure. That does happen from time to time, though. I think it's just gremlins, and everything updates whenever you try to run it. Skype tried to update. I started the show, Skype updated, and then I restarted the computer because I had no audio, and then Skype updated again right after that. So who knows? Everything updates and gets going right. It should be good to go. But we'll make sure we're good for Sunday. And if we don't have Moose in the studio on Sunday, we're gonna be talking ticks, tick-borne illnesses, Lyme disease, bioweapons, alpha gal, and meat allergies, and what that has to do with the World Economic Forum and their desire that you not eat meat and that you eat dizzy bugs. So come back and see us this Sunday. Be sure and like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'll be back live Sunday night at 10 p.m. Either that or we'll have a recorded show of Moose, and we will be live in the chat. So either way, jump in that chat. Let us know what you think. And save them holler stories for Sunday. We'll get them in there. Thank y'all. We'll see you next time. And I don't even know how to stop this thing. So there we go. See y'all later.